April 12, 1861. As the first shots echo over Fort Sumter, a nation divided plunges into a bloody civil war that will last 4 long years and reshape its future forever. From the battlefields where brother fought against brother to the halls of power where leaders grappled with a nation's soul, this was a war of firsts and many lasts. In today's exploration, we journey back to understand the profound causes, pivotal battles, and lasting impacts of the American Civil War. Through photographs, letters, and artifacts that survived the tumult, we'll piece together the stories of courage, tragedy, and the relentless pursuit of freedom that defined an era. Join us as we delve into the heart of a conflict that transformed America, forged in the fire of its most trying times. Before the first cannon roared at Fort Sumter, the United States was already on a precarious path, divided by deep-seated conflicts over territory, economy, and, most profoundly, the institution of slavery. As we trace back to the roots of the Civil War, it's essential to understand the critical decisions and events that set the stage for conflict. The Missouri Compromise in 1820 attempted to balance the power between free and slave states, but it was merely a temporary bandage over a festering wound. As the nation expanded westward, the question of whether new territories should permit slavery sparked fierce debates and violence, epitomized by the bloody confrontations in Kansas, known as Bleeding Kansas. The Compromise of 1850, which included the controversial Fugitive Slave Act, further inflamed tensions, forcing even the free states to participate in the business of slavery. Each compromise and law seemed only to postpone an inevitable confrontation. Amid these escalating tensions, the 1860 election of Abraham Lincoln, a candidate openly opposed to the expansion of slavery, proved to be the final straw. His election was viewed by many Southern states as a direct threat to their way of life and economic interests, leading to the secession of South Carolina, quickly followed by others. These states formed the Confederate States of America, setting the stage for the inevitable clash of ideals that would evolve into the deadliest war in American history. The tension reached its breaking point at Fort Sumter, South Carolina. Here, in the early dawn of April 12th, Confederate artillery opened fire on the Federal garrison, marking the start of hostilities. No lives were lost in this initial engagement, but the impact was immediate and irreversible, galvanizing both sides into action. In response, President Lincoln issued a call for 75,000 volunteers to suppress the rebellion. This call to arms prompted 4 more states to secede, driven by the fear of federal overreach and the defense of states' rights. The stage was set, the actors were in place, and the American landscape would soon be scarred by the ensuing battles of a divided nation at war with itself. As the war escalated, several key battles would come to define both its course and its character. The First Battle of Bull Run, the war's first major land battle, shattered any illusions of a quick conflict. It demonstrated the fierce resolve of both sides and hinted at the long, brutal fight ahead. Then came the Battle of Antietam in September 1862. Known as the bloodiest single day in American military history, this battle marked a critical turning point. Although technically a draw, it gave President Lincoln the momentum needed to issue the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, broadening the war's scope from preserving the Union to also abolishing slavery. The tide turned at Gettysburg in July 1863. This 3-day conflict was the deadliest of the war and ended in a significant defeat for the South, from which they would never fully recover. It also paved the way for President Lincoln's iconic Gettysburg Address, which redefined the purpose of the war and the meaning of American democracy. Lastly, General Sherman's march to the sea epitomized the war's shifting tactics. His brutal campaign of total war through Georgia devastated Southern infrastructure and morale, significantly weakening the Confederate war effort and hastening the end of hostilities. These battles, among others, were not merely clashes of armies, but were pivotal moments that reshaped the nation's political landscape and social fabric, leaving a legacy that would endure well beyond the battlefields. The American Civil War, while predominantly a military conflict, was also a dramatic and profound domestic struggle that infiltrated every aspect of civilian life. Across the Union and the Confederacy, families grappled with hardship and heartbreak as they faced the realities of war at their doorsteps. In the North, industry boomed as factories shifted to war production, providing arms and supplies for the Union Army. Meanwhile, women took on new roles, working in factories, serving as nurses, and managing farms and businesses in the absence of men. These changes marked the early signs of a shifting social landscape that would redefine women's roles in America. Conversely, the South endured severe hardships. The Union's naval blockades choked off imports and exports, leading to scarcity and inflation that made everyday goods like food and clothing prohibitively expensive. Southern women, too, adapted by taking on more responsibilities on the home front, and even in roles like spying and smuggling to aid the Confederate cause. For both North and South, children's lives were also deeply affected. Many were pulled out of school to work on farms or in factories, while others became messengers or drummers on the battlefields. The war's omnipresence blurred the lines between soldier and civilian, making the home front as integral to the war efforts as the front lines. Throughout these trying times, letters exchanged between soldiers and their families were a crucial lifeline, offering solace and sustaining relationships over vast distances. These personal writings provide us with poignant insights into the hopes, fears, and experiences of those who lived through America's most trying period. In the tapestry of the American Civil War, the leaders of both the Union and the Confederacy stand out, not only for their strategic decisions, but also for their profound influence on the course of history. These figures were more than military minds. They were symbols of the ideologies and aspirations of their respective causes. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, steered the Union through its darkest hours with unwavering resolve and a deep moral commitment to ending slavery. His leadership was characterized by profound empathy and a shrewd ability to balance political pressures, culminating in the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation, which redefined the war's goals. In contrast, Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederate States, led with a firm conviction in the rights of states and the legitimacy of the Confederacy's secession. A former U.S. Secretary of War, Davis faced the immense challenge of unifying disparate Southern states while managing limited resources and maintaining morale. General Robert E. Lee, commanding the Confederate Army, was revered for his tactical genius and his ability to achieve significant victories against often superior Union forces. His decision to surrender at Appomattox Courthouse in 1865 was a pivotal moment that effectively ended the conflict. For the Union, General Ulysses S. Grant emerged as a key figure. Known for his relentless and aggressive approach, Grant's strategies at Vicksburg and during the Overland Campaign were instrumental in depleting Confederate strength. His leadership style, marked by persistence and a pragmatic view of war, ultimately led him to the presidency of the reconstructed United States. These leaders, with their distinct styles and decisions, shaped the conflict and the nation. Their legacies, marked by both honor and controversy, continue to influence how we view leadership and national integrity in times of crisis. As the guns fell silent with the surrender of the Confederate Army at Appomattox Courthouse in April 1865, the American Civil War drew to a close. But the end of hostilities marked the beginning of another immense challenge: Reconstruction. This period was aimed at reintegrating the Southern states into the Union and redefining the social, political, and economic fabric of a nation scarred by conflict. In the immediate aftermath, the nation mourned the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln, whose vision for a charitable Reconstruction died with him. Under his successor, Andrew Johnson, and later Ulysses S. Grant, Reconstruction took a more tumultuous path. The era was marked by significant legislation, including the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which abolished slavery, granted citizenship to all born in the US, and protected voting rights regardless of race, respectively. Despite these advancements, the path was fraught with resistance. The rise of discriminatory laws known as black codes, and the emergence of white supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan, aimed to undermine and terrorize African American communities striving for equality. Meanwhile, the South faced economic devastation. Its landscape was ravaged, its slavery-dependent economy collapsed, and it needed to rebuild from the ashes of war. This reconstruction was not just physical, but deeply social, as the South grappled with the new reality of an emancipated yet disenfranchised black population. Reconstruction was a period of great hope and deep disappointment, reflecting the complexities of healing and rebuilding a nation that had been divided by its most catastrophic conflict. It laid the foundational changes that would continue to evolve over the next century as the nation struggled to live up to the ideals of freedom and equality for all its citizens. As we reflect on the American Civil War, it becomes evident that this conflict was more than a series of battles fought over territory and ideology. It was a profound transformation of the American identity. The war not only decided the fate of slavery, but also shaped the nation's understanding of freedom, governance, and human rights. The legacies of the Civil War are visible in every facet of American life. It fundamentally altered the relationship between the federal government and the states, setting a precedent for a stronger central government. The conflict also spurred significant technological and medical advancements that would shape future wars and civilian life. Yet, the scars of the war lingered, sewn into the fabric of the nation through the Reconstruction era and beyond. The struggle for civil rights and equality continued, echoing the unresolved issues of the war. Monuments and battlefields scattered across the country serve as solemn reminders of the cost of the war and the ongoing journey toward reconciliation and unity. As we stand over a century later, the echoes of the American Civil War still resonate, reminding us of a nation's struggle for its soul. The war teaches us about sacrifice, resilience, and the enduring quest for a more perfect union. It challenges us to remember the past, not as distant history, but as a guidepost for the future, compelling us to continue striving toward the ideals upon which America was founded. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the American Civil War. As we've seen, the echoes of this pivotal period in history continue to influence our nation in profound ways. If you enjoyed this exploration and wish to learn more about the characters, battles, and events that shaped this era, please consider subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends who are passionate about history. Your engagement helps us bring more content like this to you.